What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Saturday, February 3rd, 2024, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 9:03 p.m. Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from the Middle East. So, apparently, the U.S. launched another round of strikes on Western Yemen, and they launched as many as 36 strikes this afternoon and this evening against Houthi targets. We also have some very concerning news coming from the New York Times. They're reporting that Iran has reportedly escalated its military readiness and placed all their forces on high alert, including activating their air defenses and positioning ballistic missiles along the Iraqi border. Okay, I reported on this yesterday. Now the New York Times is reporting on it. So, very concerning, guys. Iran could launch missiles into Iraq. They could hit our bases. They could hit oil fields. They could do a lot of damage. Okay, this is just the beginning stages of everything. Okay, what we're witnessing now is the beginnings of World War III. Okay, so make sure you guys are getting prepared. Things are only going to escalate from here on out. We did launch a substantial round of strikes yesterday against the Iranian proxies, but they're not going to stop. They hit another U.S. base today in the afternoon, so they hit three U.S. bases, actually two U.S. bases, for a total of 3 rounds of strikes today. Okay, and this is after the U.S. launched that big strike last night. Okay, so it's only going to escalate from here on out, and I think eventually it's going to lead to war with Iran. There's no way around it. The U.S. keeps saying they don't want a war in the region, but it's going to come to that, I think, because these proxies are not going to stop. The more we strike them, the more they retaliate back, and they start retaliating more savagely. Okay, you notice how last week they hit one of our bases in Jordan and they actually killed 3 soldiers. What about a couple days from now if they hit one of our warships, or if they totally hit an entire base with a missile and kill dozens of U.S. troops? And then we're going to strike even harder, and then they're going to hit us even harder, and then it's just going to come to the point where we have to declare war on Iran. Okay, so get prepared. It's heading in that trajectory. Okay, it's irreversible. We're heading towards a war with Iran. This is the beginning stages of World War III. Okay, we're also hearing from Lebanese sources that apparently Hezbollah has put all its units on the highest possible alert for a potential war with Israel in the coming days. And the U.S. House of Representatives is going to be voting next week on a draft law for $17.6 billion in aid to Israel. And this could be the beginnings of preparing for a ground operation against Hezbollah. Okay, we're going to send Israel billions of dollars of aid before they go in. Okay, we're giving them equipment, we're giving them aid, because they're going to go in and take out Hezbollah. All right, and that's going to really escalate things even more. I support Israel 100%, by the way. Okay, Israel has apparently withdrawn another combat infantry brigade from Gaza today as part of a redeployment of forces to their northern border with Lebanon. The Israeli Defense Force announced the withdrawal of the 5th Reserve Infantry Brigade from combat operations in Gaza. And I believe this is like the second brigade that they've already withdrawn from Gaza, and they're now moving these brigades up to the border with Lebanon. So that's another sign that Israel's preparing to go in on the ground in southern Lebanon. 2 American officials told CNN that Biden approved today's strikes against the Houthis last week. Okay. And Houthi sources are claiming that they launched several anti-ship ballistic missiles towards the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden today. They also fired a ballistic missile towards Eilat in southern Israel, and apparently it had to be shot down by Israel's Arrow 3 air defense system. So the Arrow 3 air defense system is a long-range air defense system similar to like our Aegis system or THAAD. Okay, it's a long-range air defense designed for shooting ballistic missiles that are very high up in the sky. You know, they have a very high trajectory. And I believe this is probably the second or third time that Israel has had to use their Arrow defense system since October 7. So things are definitely escalating. We also have unconfirmed reports from AMBRI. AMBRI is the Maritime Intelligence Organization. They're saying that apparently there was a ship that got hit by missiles this afternoon. So it's possible that the Houthis actually hit a ship with these missiles. We'll have to wait and see. And the British Foreign Minister, David Cameron, he was the former Prime Minister, said today that Iran will bear responsibility for its proxy attacks. Wow, very strong words there. And Russia has requested an urgent meeting of the UN Security Council on the U.S. strikes on Syria and Iraq on Friday. Apparently, it's going to take place on Tuesday, according to the Russian news agency RIA Novosti. And Jordan is denying involvement in the strikes against Iraq. The Jordanian army said, "We did not participate in the airstrikes carried out by America inside Iraq, and these are rumors. We respect the sovereignty of brotherly Iraq and affirm the depth of brotherly relations with all Arab countries." Iraq apparently has suspended the export of subsidized oil to Jordan for its participation in the airstrikes on Iraqi soil, even though Jordan has just denied it. So very interesting. And the Iraqi prime minister has called for 3 days of mourning for the victims of the U.S. airstrikes. So it looks like Iraq is siding with Iran now. That's not a good sign. And the Iraqi government warned that the Middle East is on the brink of the abyss after retaliatory U.S. airstrikes reportedly killed dozens of soldiers and civilians. Shortly after the attack, Iraqi government spokesperson Bassem al-Awadi warned that the attacks risked destabilizing the entire Middle East. This aggressive strike will put security in Iraq and the region on the brink of the abyss, and it also contradicts efforts to establish the required stability. He wrote on Twitter in the early hours of Saturday, shortly after the attack. Mr. Awadi claimed that the U.S. deliberately deceived and falsified the facts by announcing prior coordination to commit this aggression. This is a false claim aimed at misleading international public opinion and disavowing legal responsibility for this rejected crime in accordance with all international laws. Wow, guys, some strong words there from this spokesperson for Iraq. So very concerning. Iraq is kind of turning against the U.S. now. I want to read to you this post from U.S. Central Command about the Houthi strikes today. As part of ongoing international efforts to respond to increased Iranian-backed Houthi destabilizing and illegal activities in the region, on February 3rd at approximately 11:30 p.m. Yemen time, U.S. Central Command forces alongside UK armed forces and with the support from Australia, Bahrain, Canada, Denmark, the Netherlands, and New Zealand conducted strikes against 36 Houthi targets at 13 locations in Iranian-backed Houthi terrorist-controlled areas of Yemen. So 36 targets, 13 locations. These multilateral coalition strikes focused on targets in Houthi-controlled Yemen used to attack international merchant vessels and U.S. Navy ships in the region. These Iranian-backed Houthi targets include multiple underground storage facilities, command and control, missile systems, drone storage and operation sites, radars, and helicopters. So very interesting. They hit underground storage facilities, but this is not as big of a strike as their first strike on the Houthis, which had over 60 targets hit In this strike, they hit 36 targets, but it was approved earlier in the week. So I think this could be part of the multi-stage response that the Biden administration has been talking about. They specifically said that what we're going to see this weekend is just the beginning. And they said certain things we're going to see and certain things we're not going to see. So, guys, this is just the beginning, okay? It's only going to escalate from here on out. The proxies are going to get more aggressive. They're going to go after our bases. They're going to go after our ships. They're going to go after commercial ships. They're going to go after oil fields potentially. And it's just going to lead to the point where we're going to have no choice but to declare war on Iran, okay? And remember, a few months ago, when the war with Hamas started, the U.S. Congress passed a resolution almost unanimously approving military action against Iran to denuclearize them because they've been tripling their uranium production and they have enough uranium now to make several warheads, okay? So I think it's coming to that point, guys. I think we're going to see it this year. So get prepared, but the next few weeks could get really, really intense. I'm going to be doing live coverage like I did this past week if things continue to escalate, and I'm going to be doing 24/7 coverage if I have to, okay? Apparently, NATO continues to form a naval group in the Eastern Mediterranean Sea ahead of a ground operation in southern Lebanon. The Danish frigate F361 Iver Huitfeldt has entered the Mediterranean, and the French UDC L9015 Dixmude arrived in Malta. So, two NATO warships have arrived in the Eastern Mediterranean, okay? A Danish frigate and a French frigate. And they're saying this is to support Israel's operation into southern Lebanon, ground operation. Want to show you guys what's going on right now over the U.S. We currently have a U.S. nuclear war command and control plane up in the air. It's been up in the air for the last few hours, basically all day. It was flying all over the Intermountain West and the Rockies earlier today. Then it briefly landed, or it was doing touch and goes near Los Angeles. And this update was sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply has brought back their 25% discount on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you have to go to preparewithNYPrepper.com, and the link is in the description below this video. And this 3-month emergency food supply has a 25-year shelf life and includes over 2,000 calories per day. All of this food is stored within 6 rugged, water-resistant buckets, and free shipping is included. And My Patriot Supply is also doing a 30% discount on the Vesta self-powered indoor space heater and stove. With this thing, you can safely heat and cook indoors. You don't have to worry about carbon monoxide poisoning. You don't have to worry about burning your house down. It uses special canned heat, and it comes with 24 cans. Each can will last you 6 hours and can warm up a room of 200 square feet. So to get the deal, also go to preparewithNYPrepper.com. And also, My Patriot Supply has a general store where they sell all kinds of prepping and survival items. To get to that store, you just click on the My Patriot Supply logo at the top of the page, and it'll take you to their general store, and they have all different kinds of discounts here on various items. They have MREs, they have water filters, they have potassium iodides, fire starters, anything you can imagine. So use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com to get 25% off of the My Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply and 30% off of the Vesta indoor space heater and stove. Looks like Palmdale, or actually looks like Edwards. It went to Edwards Air Force Base, and now it's going to Northern California. So U.S. nuclear forces are on high alert. We also had a presidential doomsday plane airborne earlier today. It flew all over the Midwest, and then it flew towards Tucson at the Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. And this is actually the same Air Force Base where the U.S. launched A-10 Warthogs from to carry out the strikes on the Iranian proxies last night. Okay, so U.S. nuclear forces are still on high alert. What's very unusual is we're not seeing a lot of U.S. military planes on the flight tracker over the last week or so. Even today, we're only seeing one nuclear war command and control plane. We should be seeing like 4 or 5 of them, okay, because there have been events that were much less serious than what's going on the last week and the last 2 days, where we had like 4 or 5 in the air, and now we only have one. Yesterday, we didn't see any. So that tells me that they're flying with their transponders off, which is very concerning, okay, that they're having to turn their trackers off. That means that we're basically in a full state of war, okay? So get prepared, guys. Things are escalating. Here we have a map showing the locations of the targets from the U.S. strikes yesterday. Okay, you can see basically eastern Syria and western Iraq, it looks like. Okay, those were the main areas. Okay, and here we have a before and after picture of a weapons depot that was hit during the strikes last night in Syria. And you can see on the left the weapons depot before the strikes, and on the right you can see after that they were just totally annihilated. I mean, there's nothing on the right. You could see it's just a pile of rubble. Okay, so pretty precise strike and lots of damage done. Here we have some video footage that was released by the U.S. military showing one of the B-1 strategic bombers used by the U.S. to carry out the strikes yesterday. This is the first time that the U.S. has used B-1s to conduct strikes on the Iranian proxies under the Biden administration, and the first time that we've actually used B-1s since 2018, when Trump ordered B-1s to launch strikes against the Bashar al-Assad regime in Syria. So if we have to use B-1s, it means something serious is going down. They flew all the way from Dyess Air Force Base to launch these attacks. And what's interesting is if you watched my videos during the week, like I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, you might remember that I reported that a presidential doomsday plane landed at Dyess Air Force Base in Abilene. And you may remember that I noted that that was very unusual for a presidential doomsday plane to land at a bomber base. And I think now we know why, because there was probably some VIP on that doomsday plane, and they probably had to coordinate everything with the bombers. But they ended up taking off from Dyess Air Force Base. They flew all the way across the ocean, and they got mid-air refueled, and then they dropped their munitions. I don't know what kind of munitions they used, probably some cruise missiles or something, or maybe some gravity bombs, some guided gravity bombs. I have no idea. All right. But you may remember this recording. Okay, this was one of the B-1 bombers that was flying over the ocean. I reported this, I think it was Friday afternoon before the strikes. This recording of one of the B-1 pilots calling into an air traffic control tower, giving his coordinates and saying that he was on an AR track, which means an aerial refueling track. So it's totally crazy that this ended up being one of the bombers that carried out the strike. So let me just play this for you again if you didn't hear it.
Cost 1-1 for the radio. Radio, cost 1-1, segment 19, 22. We are 2 minutes prior to 4413 north, 024 west. Confirm match fast 44. 13 north, 024 west at time 1241, background.
He's just giving his coordinates to the air traffic controller, and then at the end he says he's on an aerial refueling track.
For cost 1-1. Cost 1-1, flight level 190, block 220. And can you confirm the position after 4413 north, 024 west? 1, next position after will be 44 north, 023 west. So we'll be at 12.
44 degrees north, 23 degrees west.
50Z, 4330 north, 022 west. Next will be on an AR track with longer flight.
On an AR track. And here we have some video footage of the Israeli Arrow missile defense system intercepting those Houthi ballistic missiles that were launched towards a lot. You can see this contrail going straight up into the sky. That's one of the missile defense systems going up into the air to intercept those Houthi missiles. So the situation is spiraling out of control, guys. It really is. And I hope the Biden administration can manage this situation because all hell is breaking loose in the Middle East now. It's really just getting worse and worse by the day, and we need to show strength as soon as possible. Otherwise, it's going to really spiral beyond control where we're not going to be able to respond, and it's going to be just too little, too late. And what you're looking at here is one of the NATO warships. This is, I believe, the Danish frigate that was moved to the Eastern Mediterranean in Malta. And you can see this is quite a large warship. And apparently this is preparations for the Israeli ground operation into southern Lebanon, which could happen any day now. They're probably going to wait until the aid package goes through before they make their move on Lebanon. They want to make sure that the U.S. has their support. Remember that Lloyd Austin spoke on the phone with Yoav Gallant, the Israeli defense minister, just 3 days ago. And Israel said a few weeks back that they're going to give diplomacy a chance up until the end of January. And after that, if there's no diplomacy with Hezbollah, then they're going to have to go in, okay? The Israeli army carried out airstrikes on a Hezbollah military building in the Taibi area and attacked areas in southern Lebanon with tanks and artillery today. The IDF released footage showing a recent strike on a Hezbollah cell in the southern Lebanese village of Bint Jabil, whose members were preparing to launch drones at Israel. And more than 1,000 tractors have been blocking Germany's largest airport in Frankfurt since this morning. This is part of the ongoing farmers' protests or blockades in Europe. They've been blocking Paris. They've been blocking various places in Germany. They've been blocking border crossings in Belgium. Okay, so very serious situation there. And North Korea tested a new cruise missile with an extremely large warhead, according to North Korean state media. And this could potentially be a nuclear warhead. Okay, so they're basically testing nuclear armed cruise missiles that can be fired from submarines. That is very, very concerning. North Korea has really ramped up their weapons production. They've spun up a second reactor for enriching more uranium. They've also tested ICBM with 15,000 kilometer range. They tested an intermediate range missile that had a hypersonic glide vehicle on it. They tested an underwater nuclear tipped torpedo or drone. They didn't actually detonate the nuclear warhead, but it is capable of accepting nuclear warheads. Now they're testing these cruise missiles that can carry warheads. So very concerning. What you're looking at here is a picture of this Russian oil refinery in Stalingrad that was hit by Ukrainian drones yesterday. And this was on the 81st anniversary of the Russian victory at Stalingrad over the Nazis. You can see one of these tanks here on fire. And here's actually a video. You can see some of the flames here and the smoke. So it looks like Ukraine's drones were able to actually hit one of the tanks. This is the largest oil refinery in southern Russia, okay, in Stalingrad, very symbolic. And this is hundreds of kilometers away from the front lines. Okay, so Ukraine has been demonstrating recently that they're able to strike Russia deep behind the front lines. They hit an oil depot in St. Petersburg. Now they're hitting this oil refinery in Stalingrad. So things are really escalating over there as well. And the Russian Navy strategic nuclear submarine Prince Pozarsky has entered combat service. The submarine is able to launch 16 Bulava ICBMs and other undeclared missiles. And here's actually some footage of the ceremony for when they put this sub out to sea and commissioned it. Okay, so this is part of Russia's nuclear arsenal. And Putin said earlier today that Russia's uh, sea based portion of their nuclear triad is at 100% modernization, and the rest of their nuclear triad is at 95% modernization. Okay, so Putin is saying they've mostly modernized their entire uh, fleet and their entire nuclear forces. And the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, said today Texas made history as the first and only state to build our own border wall. Construction is ongoing. We will not back down from our efforts to secure the border. So, Texas is building a border wall, their own border wall. Here we have some footage of that. Okay. So, very, very interesting. So, I'm going to continue to monitor the situation. I will be back tomorrow with more breaking news, and make sure you're subscribed. Hit the notification bell down below so you get notified when I post these updates. And until then, take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.